What is up, guys? In today's video, I am facing off against the Magnus Carlsen chessbot, and it is my intention to play until I win. Now, in the opening phase of the game, I will be explaining all of the moves. As the game progresses, of course, I will have to focus a little bit more. So far, d4, c4, black goes knight f6, and what will Magnus do in this position? g6, heading for a Grunfeld or a King's Indian defense, and there will be several games in this match again. It is my intention to play until I win here. All right, the Grunfeld defense. All right, c takes d5. Black will likely recapture on d5. We'll go e4, the exchange variation. Black takes, I take back. And from here, black likely goes bishop g7 and then c5. And white has many ideas here. Let's play arguably the modern main line here. Black should go c5, knight e2. The line goes knight c6. Bishop b3, and both sides will castle. And from there, black has many ideas. Should be interesting to see what the Magnus chessbot has in mind for this game right here. Bishop d7, a solid move. Nothing wrong with that. The idea being rook c8, putting pressure on the open c file and the bishop on the c4 square. I'm going to go queen d2 here. Perfectly fine move. And my main idea is going to be, okay, knight a5. I think bishop d3 here should be fine. Black does have c4 ideas, but that would release the tension in the center. Therefore, I wouldn't be that upset if he pursued that option. So bishop d3 here should be fine. And bishop d7 and knight a5 don't really synergize all that well. Okay, c4, we're going to drop back. And I think white here should be a little bit better out of the opening. Of course, the eval bar on the left side of your screen is not there, so I can't verify, but I think white here is doing pretty well. All right, what is going on? Queen c7. Obviously, bishop f4 is one idea, but e5 is quite good for black. Therefore, I'm thinking about bishop h6. I'm trying to see any other candidate moves. e5 looks reasonable, but I don't see a good reason to close off the center that fast. I'm still leaning towards, actually, h4. This is not the worst time to do that either. Does black have f5 ideas? Because f5 could be a little bit annoying here. Let's go for this. This is where I'll start focusing a little bit more. That one does not require much explanation. So here, yep, e5 is a solid idea. d5 is possible. That may actually be forced here, although e takes, queen takes. I get the impression d5 is going to be forced. And black is going for sort of a dark square blockade, but white does have h4, h5 ideas, which could be dangerous. So it's a tricky position, although I could just leave it there and go knight takes. f4 is possible. You know, I really don't mind the opening of the center. I think this should be good for white. And my original idea was f4, although something like queen e3 is not the worst idea either, getting the queen back. Although f4, f5, f6 is one really dangerous idea for white. I quite like that, actually. It's a little bit risky opening up the king side like this. But yeah, black is forced to go back. The threat of f4, f5, f6 was too dangerous. Now here, can I keep the queens on the board? Is that possible? Queen h4 would be the best way to do it. I think black ultimately would be okay there. So I'm going to go for the endgame, and I'm kind of surprised I made it this far, being relatively okay. Now, the rooks. I may want a rook on b1, although black has so many ways to just shut that down, which makes it a little bit less attractive, let's say. I'm going to do that just because that pawn on b7 is so well defended. I don't really want a piece there. Now, this is quite annoying, actually. It's actually extremely annoying. I think king to f2 might be the only good way to defend here. And white should be fine. I don't see the follow-up. The idea being h3. Force the trade, and I should be okay here. I don't see anything that dangerous. Now, h3 is not forced by any means. Rook d4 is interesting, but of course the knight defends. Rook d7 would be interesting if the bishop wasn't defending, so I don't see a good reason to delay this move right here. And is the knight or the bishop better in this endgame? It's hard to say. This knight is restricted for now. Rook d7 is, of course, the obvious move here. There's not much else to consider. Rook d7 will be the move. b5. Black's getting some counterplay. Now, if I can have a bishop on that square, that would be very attractive. And actually, e5 is kind of a thematic move. Black can't go f6. The pawn is pinned. So e5 may be the right idea here. And white's going to have some pressure on the knight, as well as that pawn as the knight defends that pawn. And is a key question, is b4 dangerous there? Well, I don't think so. I think this is good for white. So black offers the trade. Rook d1, but then there's some tactics with b4 that I'm worried about. That is my concern. So I'm debating between rook takes and rook d1. If rook d1, rook, b4. I mean, things get kind of messy on the queen side, although I am things get messy. So for that reason, I am going to take the rook. I didn't like the tactical ideas there. Now, bishop c6 is interesting because the knight doesn't really have a good square to go to. Or bishop e4, sorry. Although, a4 ideas could be important. And rook b1 is not the worst idea either. So black is giving up a pawn. I don't see anything for black. Okay, that was the idea. That was a simple mistake on my part. Rook there looks attractive. I'm giving up that pawn and that pawn to win that pawn. And maybe even rook a5, attacking and defending. That may actually be even better. Oh, that pawn is very advanced. This is tough. This is tough, Chess YouTube. Tough position. We're going to go there. Knight takes, and then going to have to respond appropriately. This is tough because the fork, there's also, if king f2, knight d3 ideas are potentially coming. f3 attacks the knight at least, but it gives up. Yeah, I think king f3 is the only good move here. Now, I take the pawn, I lose the game. So that is ridiculously annoying. And if I take, that effectively wins as well. So I am in a little bit of a trouble here. But what can I do? King goes up. Maybe. I mean, what can I do here? It's looking like rook a5 is the only move. But then I lose the bishop. Did I just lose the game? I think I just lost, as that threat and the rook is undefendable. So, I mean, black is going to clean up here. There's just no... This cannot be defended. We're going to go for broke. And black is going to win, which I don't feel that bad, as it's Magnus Carlsen. And I made it to the end game. Right? Yeah, we're going to resign here. Well played. Rematch. Here we go. Again, playing until I can beat Magnus freaking Carlsen. All right. What you got, Magnus? I've been feeling the d4 c4 lately. So that is what I am playing against Magnus. There's too many variations after 1e4. I'm quite enjoying the d4 stuff right now. Queen's Indian is a very interesting option here. Now, where will the bishop go? So the old classical line for black. Now, how do I want to play this? Rook e1 is a pretty solid line here. There's also h4. There's also knight c3, which would d2. H4 is interesting, but I forget all of the ideas behind it. So with that in mind, rook to e1 is my move of choice here. Kind of a semi-waiting move. Now black goes there. White's going to have some options potentially. Let's see here. This move is not supposed to be good for black, and I forget why. Is that the... Black's supposed to go d5, which takes advantage of rook e1, and you take. I get the impression that this is supposed to be good for white here. I just get the impression. The idea being knight takes, you actually run into problems on that long diagonal. That is one of the ideas here. Why do I feel like this is good for white? Queen c2 looks annoying. Okay, there's your d5, and now this bishop is not properly placed in this stonewall structure here by black. All right, we got an interesting game here. I think knight c3 has to be a good move for white. The idea being, well, black's going to get some pressure on d4 actually, sooner or later. This might be more appropriate. Magnus says that move is not bad. Opening the center, very committal by black with the weird pawn structure. I think this has to be good for me. My development is a little better. Knight c3 is mildly annoying. Like good for me. Okay, that cannot be 100% correct. There's no way that is fully correct by black. There's no way. The bishop is too strong. It's too strong. I think I have to capture. I don't see a good alternative. Now black's getting some pressure on f2, which is annoying. E3 looks committal, but there's the idea of a3, b4, bishop b2, rook a d1, and so on, and white, or rook fd1, and white's getting a decent game here. E3 might be just required from white here, but I think white has, and it does control d4, which is useful. So it's an annoying move, but it's not necessarily a problem. Black can jump in there, which is, you know, an idea. It's an idea. That would not facilitate what I'm trying to accomplish. That looks pretty decent, I think. I don't see an easy way for black to exploit that. Magnus says, I like that move for you. Now, knight d3 is still a problem. Black's getting it in. He's got it over defended. So that's not getting stopped anytime soon. This bishop is the real problem here. I think the tactics work out for white, but I could be wrong. Did I just lose on the spot? I may have just lost. I may have just lost. Yeah, black's winning. Rook takes, knight takes. Both lose a queen. I'm losing the rook. Yeah. We are playing Magnus until I can get a victory. And I feel like I'm getting decent positions out of the opening. So we're gonna continue with this. All right, I like this move. I don't know any of the theory, but I like this move. But the point being, if he does that, g5, bishop g3, f4, e3, and white has the checkmate threat, which stops the Noah's Ark pin, which Magnus is shockingly going for. This is not good for black. This is actually quite good for white here. Quite good for white. So covering h5, he does do that. So e3 guards f4. Stopping f4 ideas. Now, black might want to, that's no good. No good for black. And by the way, Chess YouTube, I am doing 4 free group coaching calls this weekend. If you want to learn directly from me, the guy who's trying to defeat the Magnus Carlsen chessbot, go to the link in the description of this video. The first link right there goes to my free community. And when you get there, you know, I'll onboard you. I'll welcome you there. I'll DM you, and we'll get you set up for those 4 free trainings this weekend. So, all right. Big question. Do I want to go? I mean, white can do a lot of things. You can castle kingside, queenside, keep his king in the center. White's got some options here. Bishop d3 can't be all that bad. And white here should have a nice advantage, actually. Now, do you want to go h4? That is one of the big questions here. Do you want to do that? Now, the reason to delay, if black goes g4, you have h4. But if you go h4, g4, that is not possible. Beyond that, castling kingside looks a little risky. Castling queenside may be a good idea. But if you go queen c2, knight b4 is quite annoying. Now, with the knight there, it does kind of hinder the queenside development. It's not the best square for the knight. So I think a3 should be fine. All right. What? What? Magnus. There's no way this is good. Magnus says this is where the real fun begins. This is kind of crazy. Idea obviously is knight takes d4. Black went f4, deflect the pawn, then did g4. This is insane. This is insane. I'm looking at d5. Takes, rook g1, takes. Black's doing okay. This is just a weird position. There's also like the Greek gift in response and like take the knight, which may or may not be good. I mean, there's nothing else. Knight h4. I don't love giving up this bishop. I don't think that accomplishes what I want it to accomplish. That does look annoying. It's not completely unwarranted, let's say. But the knight's vulnerable there. I am so confused by this position, if you can't tell. I don't know up from left from right. The queen can't go anywhere because the knight is so annoying. This is really awkward. Really awkward. It's so awkward, I'm just going to castle kingside, which is not my intention here. Okay, that is a weakening move. Does defend the knight. Does defend the knight. I really don't know what I'm doing in this position. This is so awkward on like every level. Now, f5 is an obvious idea. The pawn is somewhat defended for now, but I do lose out on knight g6 ideas, so it you know, that's a problem. Bishop g6 is like an idea, forcing that, but then the bishop doesn't do much from there. God, what do you do as white here? I'm going to make an impulse move because I can't figure out anything here. Super awkward because the queen doesn't have a good square, like at all, at all. That might be the way to go. Actually, I like that quite a bit. I like that quite a bit. Okay. That is a controversial move. For sure. For sure. So one idea is trying to deflect the knight away from g4. This has to be a good move for me. Has to be. Not the move I expected. kind of like the idea of trading before black can take and then go rook e8. Because it looked a little dangerous. Obviously, black is still playing so well here. Obviously. Knight e4 comes to mind because we're pressuring the knight that defends the pawn. We're pressuring that pawn, which is a pawn. It's not so simple. I mean, pawns defend that. That's not a threat. Nah, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Simple tactics doesn't work. So this knight is like almost my worst placed piece. Can I get it back in the game via f4? That is not the worst idea by any means. So I think Jacob Agard has a rule. Jacob Agard, you know, one of his rules in trying to find what to do, it's like, what is your opponent's threat? What are the weaknesses? And what is your worst place piece? So that definitely meets the worst place piece idea. So I like this intending knight d5 ideas. And that is not a move I like for black. I always like the bishops as white. My opponent gives me the bishops. I'm usually happy to take it. So why would he do that? Is there a hidden idea? God, this is so tricky. This is so tricky. Man. What about that? That looks insane. Sorry for taking so much time, guys. This is a key moment, and I don't know what to do. I really don't. I feel like taking is good, but black's getting so much activity. That is the problem right there. This activity is just it's a lot. And I don't want to allow it. My pieces are still not on good squares. Maybe queen d2? Just maintain the tension? I think this is where I'm choking, but okay. I mean, I could literally get a knight on e6 with like no, I can't. Which means that may be the best square. For that piece. Beating Magnus is not as easy as it sounds, guys. It's really not. Really not. He just doesn't miss anything. Um, what? Hold on, hold on, hold on. Did he drop a piece? Did Magnus drop a piece? Can someone like fill me in what I'm missing? Because material's even, and there's a knight that's just okay. Takes bang. Yeah, he somehow this Magnus guy. I tell ya, he's dangerous. This guy is dangerous. If I go there, takes there, and that's really brutal. If I go, but I can't just go out of it. Forced. Okay, endgame. Do I want an endgame? Do I want an endgame? And if I don't, what can I do? I get the impression I don't have a choice. Or at least a good choice. Alright, endgame. Queen side majority versus king side. I've got to push on the king side. I've got to defend these pawns as well. That pawn is a nuisance. It's quite difficult to like solve that. Pressure on b2. I don't want to push too aggressively, so b3 it is. I may have decent drawing chances here. Shockingly. I might be drawing against Magnus. That is no joke, let me tell you. All right. That's he's getting some. If I go there, that pawn is done. Done. I think that is forced. Okay, this is annoying. The idea of bishop f2 is not something I can tolerate, which means his king is very active. Um, Doesn't miss a beat, guys. He doesn't miss a beat. That's a winning king and pawn endgame for you endgame people. It's getting tough out here as Black has so many ways to do this. My knight is out of the game effectively. Yeah, knight's out of the game. There's no chance. Let's play 2 more games here. 2 more games. I'm getting close. I'm actually getting close. I'll play a little faster this game. I'm getting close against the Magnus Carlsen chess bot. That is not, you know, nothing to scoff at, guys, here. I think. Can I squeeze out a win? Give me a line I know a little more. Do some d5 stuff. Queen's Indian again. So the rookie one did not go as well before. We're going to do this line, which I think Ding Liren has actually played this as white. All right, that looks awkward to say the least, but knight b4 is a problem. So I think a3 here is just good for white. And it's not obvious what black is doing, like at all, because that is a pretty solid response. And I can go b4. Unless black is planning c5, but even then. This is weird. This is a weird setup. Just a weird setup. I think c5 is the idea. And I think I got famoosed into a kind of a weird position. Now, d takes interesting because that's not possible, so black would have to recapture there. And then it's one of these weird pawn structures that I don't know super well. So I'm not thrilled about playing that. If d5, you lose a pawn, and there are gambit lines like that in this opening. That would be the more interesting. You know what? This is certainly the more interesting way to go here. And I think this is a good version of this gambit for white. I think it is. Now, f5 is typically a good square for the queen in these kinds of lines, but g6 is problematic. Why would that be bad for me? That was part of the plan. This is a wild position, guys. This is really something else right here. This is something else, I tell you. That I don't mind, because this is part of my plan. Problem is, f4 becomes harder to achieve, I think. What? Oh, the fork. I might be busted here. Very possible this is the end, guys. I mean, this is it. He's got me. He's got me. Magnus. Magnus. Magnus not even bothering to capture. The audacity. The audacity. Let's just, I mean, that's still, I'm so twisted up here. This is a resign worthy position. This is so bad. This is so bad. Everything loses. Everything loses. One more game, guys. One more game. One more game. You know, I think I'm getting some decent positions. I made it to an end game once, but Magnus is freaking strong. It's Magnus bot. Give me something not a you know what? I do not want to face a Queen's Indian again, so we're going G3. I don't normally go this, but I do like the Catalan for white. So, okay, playing the main line, arguably. This is kind of all the rage at the highest level nowadays. This bishop b4 line. Now, white has a lot of ideas. None of them really lead to a concrete edge, but they give interesting positions. Okay, that is not black's idea in this opening. It's just not. White is doing well here, I think. Yeah, that is one of the problems. That knight is misplaced. If I want to, bishop g5 is a move. And I've got some pressure. Yeah, if black didn't do that, he would be in trouble. So that was a good move by Magnus as usual. Now we have the pressure on these squares. And the big question is, how do you want to handle this pressure? And it's not the easiest thing to solve, for being honest. It's really not. I want to say this is okay for me. With the idea being plopping the knight on that very good square, perhaps getting the rooks over, perhaps just attacking. Perhaps just attacking. That is quite annoying. Quite annoying from black. Quite annoying. Can someone please explain why black just gave up this pawn? I mean, I'm not a stable chess genius like Magnus, but this is what's the thinking? I'm gonna be honest. It always seems like I have this way to get out of here, no matter what he does, unless he goes there. No, I retreat. Right? I mean, I'm not gonna not take a free pawn. So, yeah. Here we go, baby. I have the edge. Last game. Here we go. Okay. I like this bishop. I don't see any reason to... If I go there, that's annoying. D2 is falling into that. This looks like the only good square. And it is a good square. So that is where we're going. Good move. Controlling that. And my knight is temporarily locked out of the game. And I have to regroup. Now, is that a free pawn? Because if that is a free pawn, I would like the free pawn. Because a free pawn is a free pawn. Even attending queen d4. That looks really good for white. What am I missing? This looks really good for white. Now, black has some pressure. I'll give him that. That looks fine. Stopping d4 ideas. And the knight actually controls the two squares that would hit the queen with the bishop. So I don't see a good reason to not do this. Now, the rook on c2 is a problem that must be dealt with. But I think white's going to have some ideas here. Now, that looks decent. Is there enough pressure? Not enough pressure to really... Mother. Black's up. Exchange. You know, I've still got some chances here. I'm not losing yet. That might be the only... If I could defend both pawns, I'd be doing okay, but I can't, obviously. I mean, at this point, what else am I going to do? What else am I going to do? What else could I even do? Yeah, there's no way to defend the pawn. All right, I'm gonna play for a draw here. Let's see if I can draw Magnus. Honestly, White's idea here is just to sit back and wait. Like, there isn't that much White should be doing. Relatively speaking. White's idea really is kind of this waiting strategy. Now that's mildly interesting, but of course, anything mildly interesting, Magnus just shuts down. I'm being a little annoying here. And that's it. All right. That's it. I could not beat Magnus. I'm sorry, guys. I gave it my best shot. I think I put up a decent match overall. Yes, I was using a lot more time than Magnus, but Magnus is a computer, so I think it counts. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I have been training a little bit recently, so my rating should be shooting up pretty soon, so it'll be fun to see that. And by the way, guys, if you want to learn directly from me, you saw my chess skills in this match against Magnus. I seem to somewhat know what I'm doing a little bit. So if you want to learn directly from me, I have 4 free group coaching calls this weekend, 12 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Saturday, 12 p.m. Eastern Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Sunday. They last about 2 to 3 hours each. If you want to learn directly from me for free in my group coaching calls, the link is in the description below the video. Head there, school.com/chessmindset. I'll see you there. I'll onboard you. I'll answer any questions you have, and I'd love to see you in those calls. So anyways, I sincerely wish you the best on your chess improvement journey, and I'll see you in the next video.